Wireless LAN Professionals Podcast, episode 179.
For the very first version of this application, and this was built from the ground up for the Wi-Spy Air, we've really focused on kind of a combination of what you get from the Metageek Insider application and what you get from the IPA tool.
Wireless LAN Professionals is a place to educate, inform, encourage, and entertain those involved in wireless LANs. This Wireless LAN Professionals podcast is an audio manifestation of these goals. Our host is a wireless LAN veteran, consultant, designer, and teacher, Keith Parsons. And now, the podcast for wireless LAN professionals by wireless LAN professionals.
Well, Keith, we've got another biggest struggle question someone has for you.
Bring it on.
All right, here we go. This is from Jimmy, and he says, my current biggest challenge is just getting to the point that I feel comfortable with my knowledge level in relation to wireless. I have a background in route and switch and just shifted focus to wireless about 8 months ago. We're a Cisco shop, and I took over a deployment that was about 50% complete when I was added to the project. I have since completed the CCNA wireless and Y design. Where do I go from here?
Okay, good. That's a good question. There's a lot of people who are who've started. Actually, his route switch background is very much where a lot of people get into this.
Yeah, in all our interviews, that's a common thread, definitely, that comes through.
And being dropped into a wireless project, also very common. So, Jimmy, we like your question because it's tied into what a lot of other people talk about. Now, first, one of the things I want to compliment you on is you completed your CCNA wireless and you're working towards your CCNP wireless. That's fantastic. I would suggest, in addition to the vendor-specific training, and Cisco has some really great training, but its target and its reason for being is to teach you how to do the Cisco-ish part. It's not designed, nor was it implied that it was going to teach you wireless in general. So the CWNP program has a range of courses, starting at the low end and moving up to CWNA, then NP, SP, and DP. There's a whole series of classes that teach vendor-neutral wireless itself. So first answer to your question is, in addition to the Cisco-centric pieces, you might want to also be looking at doing some vendor-neutral training on those kind of things. But the second thing I wanted to answer was your comfort level. We all have this idea of we're not as good as we think we are, but we try to show off that we are. But after being involved in this for 20 years, I lay in bed at night and think, I am an imposter. I still don't know enough. There's so much more to learn. Just last week, I was at a conference and I attended some sessions and obviously learned a ton there. And the things I learned, I'm like, I should have learned this 15 years ago, and I didn't learn it until just today. So no matter where you are in this process, there's always more knowledge to learn, and you're going to feel uncomfortable because there's always someone who knows more than you do. But you've started out the right way. You started out taking some courses, studying, passing the tests. Just broaden your scope, take some more courses along the way. And I don't know if you're only in 8 months, if you might be in 8 years, and you might still feel that way, but you'll have a whole lot more knowledge 8 years from now than you do today.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of different WLAN pros say none of them feel like they've arrived. There's not really an arrival place. It's always just a continual learning process, and that they have to continually challenge themselves and get that real world experience.
True even with the CWNEs or CCIE wireless. It's a continual learning process. And that's why we have a WLPC conference, is to give people a chance and to hear their peers also talk about things that they didn't feel comfortable with. They studied, they learned, they found a solution, and then they got on stage and with guts and hopefully a little bit of glory, shared it between their peers and said, and this is how I figured out this one thing to do. And there's hundreds of people who come just to listen to those little snippets along the way and realize, yeah, I learned my little bit, but there's a whole bunch more I need to look at.
I'll just take this opportunity to do a little plug. Tell us about the training opportunities that are really cool happening this year from Wireless LAN Professionals, because we've got some really cool training opportunities I think more people need to know about.
Well, we have the Ekahau Wireless LAN design courses that we're doing. We've been doing an Ekahau ECSE course for the last 4 or 5 years, and have taught over 4,000 people how to do Wi-Fi design using Ekahau as a tool of choice. In addition, we'll be rolling out a couple of new courses. There's an advanced ECSE course developed and taught by Blake Croney. And then we'll have, starting this summer, a new Ekahau ECSE course called ECSE Troubleshooting. It's not specifically on using Ekahau tools. It's using generic troubleshooting tools to learn troubleshooting. Whereas the normal Ekahau design class is about how to design Wi-Fi, there's also a need in the industry to learn how to troubleshoot. So we're rolling out a troubleshooting class. In addition, we have CWAP classes taught by Peter McKenzie and some Python courses taught by Jake and Ryan, Wi-Fi hacking classes, white hat kind of hacking classes taught by Phil Morgan. And all of those will be held and hosted in GT Hill's missile silo in Arkansas called Titan Ranch. So we'll be teaching a bunch of classes for various resellers, but under the WLAN Pros name, we'll be teaching at Titan Ranch this year. And you can drop in the show notes and see the link to where the Titan Ranch classes are.
Yeah, I'll do a link for that for sure.
We'd love to have you there. It's one of the most unique places I've ever taught. I mean, how many people get to be in a missile silo? Second, there's all sorts of really fun activities we do while we're in the missile silo, like watching war games at night after class inside of a war games missile silo. It's kind of Inception-like.
Yeah.
But the classroom itself is a great classroom to teach in. I mean, I've taught all over the world, and it's quiet. It's stable. I mean, you're inside of a room, but you don't feel like you're 35 feet underground. But you do feel like it's been designed to be a great teaching place. So I'm looking forward to getting a bunch of those in. In fact, I've got one just a couple of weeks, and we'll be holding the first ECSE class in Titan Ranch.
Very cool. And kind of going back to one of your earlier points, where you're comparing like Cisco to CWNP. Again, it's not an either or scenario. It's really kind of always chasing that knowledge and I guess adding as much to your arsenal as possible, because you're a self-proclaimed junkie of certifications.
Yeah, definitely.
So is that kind of fun? Is that unique, or do you recommend people just like add those certifications wherever and however they can?
I don't think it's. I mean, one of the questions we were trying to ask, a couple sessions ago, someone was like, they're just getting started and how, where they need to move forward, and they obviously need to study and learn. But what they need to think about is, if you're a Cisco shop today, great. That doesn't mean you're going to be you're going to be working at a Cisco shop next week. Most of the CCIEWs I know are I don't want to say multilingual, but multi-vendor capable. They've been certified by Cisco, and after that they start and get certified by Aruba or by Ruckus or Extreme or whoever the next project is necessary. So there is a set of generic things you need to know that CWNP puts out, but in addition to every vendor that you're going to be supporting, you'll need to go through their training as well.
So any new certifications on your horizon? What's next? Have you gotten them all?
No, there's still lots more. In fact, I try to get at least one or two a year for my entire life, and I've got 2 specifically scheduled this summer. I'll be doing some training in microtech. I've got some certifications from all the big ones, and I'm like, well, maybe I need to go and try some other ones. So I'm going to a boot camp in Riga. So where their offices are, and get a sit for a week and get some router training and see how it compares to Cisco router training I have, and get some more certs along the way.
Jimmy, hopefully that answers your question. If you guys have more questions, please, you can submit them on the website or even email help@wlanpros.com, and we'll be happy. I'm sure Keith would be happy to answer all your questions.
I don't know if I can answer them all, but I'll be glad to attempt it.
Yeah, or at least share your opinion, because you've got that, right?
Definitely have an opinion.
All right. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you.
WLAN interview. Getting to know the leaders, movers, and shakers in the wireless LAN world.
Welcome back. This is Keith Parsons with Wireless LAN Professionals, and today I have with me Brian Tuttle of Metageek. So, Brian, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Keith. I'm great. Thanks for having me on. It's been far too long since you and I have talked.
Well, you have a new product out that would be fun to talk about. New product's called Wi-Spy Air.
That's right.
Where'd the name come from? You had Wi-Spy as a product for a long time. What's the Air part?
Well, so the Air part really started out as a nod to the fact that this will be the first Wi-Spy that from the get-go is designed for use with mobile devices, iOS and Android phones. So that was the inspiration for the Air. It's with you when you need it. It's light and convenient, and it's easy to have on you. One of the kind of biggest points of feedback that we have always gotten about our products is that it's wonderful, and the need to carry a laptop computer is something that at least sometimes shows up as wishing that I had it with me. So we're trying to take away that wishing that you had it with you and just make it super easy to have with you. And so Air just seemed to describe the essence of that.
And it's light as air. Well, not quite exactly that light, but it's way less than a computer that you have to schlep around with you. So you obviously OEM part of this solution. Ossium announced their part.
Right.
You're using part of their hardware, but you obviously done some software changes. And what other things have you changed from just the straight up Ossium product?
Well, in terms of the hardware, the big difference is that there's a packet capture capability in the Wi-Spy Air that isn't available in the Ossium basis for this product. So that capability to actually look at layer 2 traffic and sample top talkers, get actual measurement of throughput rates and things of that nature is all capability that's exclusive to the Metageek Wi-Spy Air.
No, I was going to say from the hardware standpoint, that's a huge differential. Most spectrum analyzers see the raw RF and don't have any ability to decode bits. There's no decoding algorithm. So you did that by adding a Wi-Fi chip along with their spectrum analyzer.
That's right.
Tell us, what's the specs on that Wi-Fi that you have in there? As in, is it 802.11b?
Well, no. It is 802.11n, and it is a single stream device because of power budget limitations on iOS in particular. The amount of power that can be drawn from the Lightning port is very, very small because the desire to protect the battery life on the host device. And even with a fairly limited capability Wi-Fi chip, we had to go with rechargeable battery, external battery. And so what you can't do is replace a packet capture device like the Air PCAP or using a monitor mode on your Mac. But what you can get is a really good sampling of what's actually going over the air. So it's not a forensic packet capture per se. It's more of an analytical packet capture. But it does provide a lot of insight about which of the devices that are using more than their share of airtime, which devices are top talkers and things of that nature. So
that's obviously terribly useful. I wasn't trying to degrade the 802.11n. Single stream N can do all sorts of information. I mean, as long as they can decode the beacons and see what's being offered and the clients, what they're talking, okay, good enough. And you had to add the rechargeable AAA is to power the the Wi-Spy Air itself, so it doesn't draw off the Lightning port.
That's right. Actually,
that was the reason.
Yeah, that is the reasoning, and it's interesting because there are actually two distinct power paths or power planes in the device, and it will actually run as a spectrum analyzer without any batteries in it at all. It is just the Wi-Fi chip that requires the AAAs. But yeah, those are there to make that a possibility. There's simply just no way to meet that power budget off the Lightning connector itself.
Yeah, you'd think with an iPad's basically a big battery with a screen, but you have to follow iOS rules. So, it's not like you had a lot of choice there.
That's true.
Does Android have any limitations that way on the how much draw you can pull from the Android?
Well, I would say that in general, it's less black and white. Is kind of the general solution, the general answer to anything about iOS versus Android. On iOS, like you said, there's very clear rules and standards, and even when they aren't necessarily physical, in terms of an iPad that has a huge battery, those rules remain consistent. On Android, it's a lot more to do with, this particular device happens to provide this much amperage. and this other one provides slightly less, and this one provides more, except when such and such happens. So just making everything work on iOS is a guarantee that it will also work quite well in Android from a power budget perspective, but there isn't nearly the consistency.
From a physical cabling, the device has a port on it, and then in addition, it has to connect up to either Lightning or USB-C on an Android or USB Micro.
Right.
Do you have does it come with a little adapters?
Yeah, it comes with the 3 different cables that are hook it up to most mobile devices. So we have a device or a cable that goes from the Wi-Spy Air to micro USB, USB-C connector, and a Lightning connector. So that covers the vast majority of the Android devices and all of the supported Apple devices. It actually comes with quite a collection of cables because there's also a traditional USB cable as well, which will be used to recharge the device's batteries. So it'll actually serve as its own charger.
Oh, so you charge it with just any 5-volt USB.
That's right.
And it has 2 ports, a micro and a mini?
Yeah, so the micro is the charge port, and the mini is the port that we actually use to connect as a peripheral. It's funny, one of the things that Ostium and Metageek have in common is our kind of nostalgia for the mini USB connector because it's good for so many more insertions than the micro.
Oh, that's what USB-C's for, man. No, I don't know if it's as robust.
It's probably not quite as robust, although it is certainly more robust than the micro. It's just a lot bigger. It probably doesn't end up being a terrible compromise, but the connectors are always one of the biggest parts on a printed circuit assembly. And it's just really hard to convince anyone who's working on a hardware design to give up that much acreage. I'm sure USB-C will be coming.
And the minis have been around a long time.
Yes.
And minis just work.
They do. They just work.
It's funny. We call them mini, but they're the big one.
Yeah, they're the largest of the lot.
So I think there's definitely a marketplace for this because many times I just whip out my phone and go, "Oh, I wish I had," and I don't have the other pieces of information. Especially from iOS standpoint, we can't even get a scan. So your app is called?
The app is called Air Viewer.
Air Viewer.
Yes.
And the app needs the Wi-Spy Air to give it its data.
Yeah,
but now you can do scanning type things on your iPhone.
Yes.
So what kind of information can I get from that scanner?
Well, so for the very first version of this application, and this was built from the ground up for the Wi-Spy Air, we've really focused on kind of a combination of what you get from the Metageek Insider application and what you get from the IPA tool. So what you can see is, of course, your sort of basic channel information in terms of airtime utilization, number of APs that are on a channel, number of clients that we've seen on that channel. And then you can get all sorts of logical information about the different networks that are out there. So we have what is essentially an extended service set. So a logical network, and then all of the APs or the basic service set identifiers that comprise that network, all of the clients that are on those, and then a bunch of analytics based on the packets in terms of airtime utilization, in terms of retry rates, in terms of actual data rates that we're seeing.
So it sounds like it's way improved compared to just like Insider that gives you network SSIDs, BSSIDs, signal strength, and kind of security type. You've added to that. So this is like a big step above Insider and not quite to IPA. Is that kind of where you're placing it in the market?
Yeah, I think that describes it pretty well. I actually think that it's going to end up probably even surpassing IPA, even though it can't do those forensic quality packet captures, just because instead of a capture analyze use case, it's a live real-time update use case, and it's so much more valuable in my mind because of the fact that the data is all being presented live. It is a huge step forward from Insider and from any of the kind of free analyzer products that were available on iOS way back in the day.
Oh yeah, I mean, as soon as you get to packets, you can get information like retry rates and average data rate, and those are very, very helpful for doing troubleshooting and seeing where you are at the time. And instead of just seeing only beacons off of APs, you also have the ability to show with this tool the client side. I'm very impressed. It's way closer to IPA than it is Insider.
One of the things that I'm most excited about is how little it feels like we've actually scratched the surface of the capability for both for Wi-Fi troubleshooting and for optimization, and also for like, I don't even know how to describe it, but sort of like just-in-time monitoring. Like I can just get a glimpse into what the state of the network was right now, and then be able to refer back to that and see what's changed. And I just think that when you've got that down to the client level and the sort of traffic pattern level, that is going to be extremely beneficial.
Well, I have a couple of questions about the interface and how one person would use it. This is kind of difficult since this is audio, no video.
Right.
But for those of people who've seen IPA and they have the treepies,
Mm-hmm.
however you like to call them, where you can visualize airtime utilization in a circular graphs. What kind of visualization are you using with AirViewer?
So what we start out with is at the top of the screens, you'll see that graph that everyone's used to, where you've got channels or frequency across the bottom of the graph, and then you've got the power level and dBm along the y-axis, and you see what we at Metageek call the ziggurats, which are very familiar.
Little trapezoid.
Right, the little trapezoids. And every once in a while, you'll see the horseshoe, the upside down horseshoe. And of course, you've got the spectrum, kind of a new mobile version of the density topographic view that we've had as kind of a signature of Metageek product for a long time.
Can you get a waterfall as well? I mean, one of the features I like is the waterfall, so you can go back and say, oh, 5 minutes ago, this thing happened.
Thank you. We don't have the waterfall yet. One of the things that we were starting from first principles with this app, because, we have had some mobile apps in the past, but this was really a good opportunity for us to sort of think this thing through from nothing. And waterfalls haven't shown up yet, because one of the things that is hard on a phone, and we did start with the phone in mind, because we had that idea of, the thing that you wish you had with you was what we wanted to make sure you had with you. And that's definitely a phone. And it's not 100%. My hypothesis, and I'll own this one, was that it isn't 100% of the time going to be an iPad. I do think that, speaking of that excitement I have about the future, we are going to add more responsiveness for those larger screen devices, and something like a waterfall view will make a lot more sense when it doesn't need to occupy the entire screen in order for you to be able to really see the detail. So I think we don't have the waterfall in there yet. It's definitely something that shows up really regularly in our beta testing with our early users. And so it's definitely something that's on the roadmap.
Well, I also see if you started this as a phone first solution, a waterfall is something where it's almost, you leave behind, you wait, you come back and analyze later. This is live. You're using it right. You're standing right there with it. So if anything was missing, I can see how that would be something that needs either a bigger screen or a little more time where I'm hanging around for a while. So yeah, it's definitely a different use case when you have to start thinking from a phone standpoint. Not just the screen real estate, but how you're physically using it in space.
It is. And it's been really, really fun to work on, because like one of the things that I find myself doing the most with AirViewer is there is this sorting mechanism, and we're all used to it. Normally at the top of a table, if you hit the table header, it will sort descending, and then if you hit it again, it'll sort ascending, and whichever column you choose to click on in a table is the column that it'll be sorted by. And we have that same sort of a mechanism. We've got cards instead of a table, because tables are, again, tough to do on a mobile screen. So we have this list of cards below. So if you imagine the channels view, then you've got your graph of, say, the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum, and then you've got a list of cards below that. That's the channels 1 through 11 or 1 through 14, depending on your settings. And what we have there is a menu that gives you options for all the different ways of sorting it. And something that's really cool is that you can sort by channel utilization descending, or you can sort by number of BSSIDs on a channel descending. And so there's this really awesome way of providing through the sort the ability for the things that are active, the things that are of interest to bubble up to the top of that pile of cards. And then when you start doing that for logical networks, for ESSIDs, you have this incredibly awesome way of the things that matter just sort of percolating to the top of the pile as the data flows in, as the packets flow in. And you know, you can do the same thing with clients, you can do the same thing with APs, you can do it with networks and with channels. And it's phenomenal. I really love that feature.
You did a fantastic job of describing that too. Having not even seen it, I could kind of see the process. Obviously, this is a lot of data, and it's coming into a smaller device. Though our devices today do have multiple gigabytes of storage in them. What's the kind of hit for if I was using this on my personal phone? If I'm scanning for 20 minutes, what's it going to add to on my phone?
Nothing. It doesn't persist. So everything is adding to a baseline. So there's a snapshot of essentially the last 1 to 3 minutes worth of data, and then everything beyond that is just kind of rolled up into analytics. So over the last 20 minutes, we've seen this client used this much on average, and then in the last 1 minute, it's been used this much, kind of way of aggregating that data so that we don't have to keep giant PCAP files around or things like that.
Is there a way to save that net result? So I could baseline today, come back tomorrow, and kind of do some differential?
There is not today, and that is actually what we're working on right now. So today we're talking about AirViewer and we're talking about the Wi-Spy Air. The other thing that Metageek's been doing that we're super excited about is adding snapshots to Insider and to Insider Plus. And so we are already working on that exact same mechanism for AirViewer. It'll be totally consistent that you create a snapshot, it goes into a account, and so you always have access to that history. You'll have access to snapshots that you create in AirViewer in Insider or directly on the web, and vice versa. If you had created a snapshot in the Windows version of Insider, you'll have access to that on AirViewer. Then you'll really get the power of what's different. And so that's such an accelerator to the troubleshooting process, right? When the application can highlight, these are the 3 things that are different. So we're super excited about it.
The old Sesame, one of these things is not like the other.
Yep,
helps a lot. Good, very, very good information. I just want to highlight, I've been looking at the quick start user's guide for this, and it's basically connect it, then plug it in. Start the app. That's all you have to do. So kudos to whoever wrote that. I was thinking, what's the process? The process is you put the parts together and plug it in.
Yeah, you get the app, you put some batteries in the Wi-Spy Air, you find the cable that looks like the hole on your device, and you plug it in. And on Android, it'll even fire the first time it'll come up and ask for permission to start the application when the Wi-Spy Air is connected. And if you grant that permission, it'll do it forever. On iOS, you tap on the AirViewer icon and away you go.
So what's the training for this? Obviously, it has lots and lots of detail. How are you training your end users who are purchasing this product?
Honestly, Adam Miedema has been the program manager for this product and has done an amazing job. And unfortunately, isn't here today because I'm sure he would be handling this much better than I am. But he has just been putting together videos and walkthroughs, and so we've got a lot of content on that front. We're having a lot of conversations internally about how to embed a kind of tutorial interactive training process right in the application that doesn't even require the hardware, so that you could download the application. If you could download the application right now before you get your Wi-Spy Air, and you could walk through the entire experience of how to use the information on those screens to solve problems. But I hadn't quite figured out how to deliver that yet. So that's another really important roadmap item for us. We got some new designers on our team here at Metageek that helped with the AirViewer application and have also been helping with some upgrades to our website and the snapshot features, and that's one of the things that they're really eager to see us start doing better for our customers.
You're definitely not alone in that. Most vendors, especially vendors who have any kind of tools in this space, run across that problem all the time. The tool needs to be simple, but the concept behind it is sometimes fairly complex to know when and where to see that. So I like the snapshot and the differentials. That will help a lot of people. But there's a much bigger market of people who have bad Wi-Fi and just want to do something to make it better.
Yes. Yeah.
And this looks like it's a tool that can help a lot of people. So I know in the past, Metageek has had different sample target audience.
Yep.
They even go by name. Like Susie does this and works at home and she wants to fix her Wi-Fi. So who's the end user that you're looking for the Wi-Spy Air to go to?
Well, we really started out with our old buddy Chuck, and we could have called him Keith, honestly, because this one is a throwback to our audience that we've spent the most time with, and that's the folks that are listening to this podcast, and the ones that we interact with a lot on WLAN Professionals Conference. A lot of times we see some overlap with those same people at Wi-Fi Trek conferences, and they're the ones who are doing everything from warehouses and school designs and stadiums and things like that we felt like they were the ones that right away would recognize the value proposition to having a Wi-Fi troubleshooting tool with them that's over $1,000. It is a significant investment, right? It's the price of an iPhone. And so we know that right out of the gate, the people who most recognize the value of always having that with them are going to be the Chucks, as we call them. That's the persona that we have for real Wi-Fi experts who do Wi-Fi every day as their job. You spoke about that broader audience, that less specialized, less highly trained and less experienced audience of people who are having Wi-Fi problems and really want to do something about it. Wi-Spy Air isn't really priced in a place where I think most people are gonna be comfortable running out and saying, "Yep, that looks like something that I need." We do feel like from the snapshot capability that we're adding, and this ability to proactively monitor the health of your Wi-Fi and the way that it evolves will help to reinforce the value delivery. But I think that the training aspect that you were asking about a moment ago is probably something that Metageek and really probably our fellows are going to have to do a better job of before we can really get in a position where premium tools like this become something that are ubiquitously in the hands of Wi-Fi network administrators.
Well, and there's a huge market out there, like cable TV operators who have field reps who go out to fix Wi-Fi. Even if they had an old Wi-Spy with the laptop, and they usually have a laptop with them, just the spec an alone is not enough to tell them the answers.
That's right.
It's a combination of what's in the RF, what's on layer 2, who's talking loud, what are the retry rates, and all of that is sitting there right available for you with AirViewer.
Yes, and AirViewer is something that those certainly telecom and internet service provider companies have been clamoring for. Actually, a lot of them, even when they try to compel in-home technicians or in-business technicians to carry a laptop, they'll leave it in the truck when they actually go into the house to set up the Wi-Fi, and so they've actually been very, very excited about the idea of having a validation tool that provides a kind of pass-fail for a Wi-Fi deployment in a residence. And I think the AirViewer application doesn't quite nail the use case for those particular technicians, but that audience is really excited about having professional Wi-Fi install verification, professional Wi-Fi troubleshooting on iOS in particular and on mobile.
Well, even with your not 100% forensic packet capture, you have enough data there that it's just manipulating around a bit to answer some of their questions. So I could see it'd be a possibility to move that direction as well.
Yeah, and something in that particular area is just something that we ran into with Insider Technician when we first started talking to the internet service provider market is that the technician has to facilitate a conversation around expectations with the homeowner, the end user of the actual network, because Wi-Fi is open to whatever circumstances the environment happens to foist upon it at a given time. There needs to be a more dynamic set of expectations in order for these internet service providers to stop being kind of a punching bag for customer satisfaction. And I'm not excusing the internet service provider industry. I certainly know that my own provider doesn't go out of its way to keep me happy as a customer, but the technicians actually are, they are on the front line of that customer satisfaction conversation. And as good and decent human beings, they're all super excited about being able to frame a conversation in a way where there's something visual, there's something that we can look at, and we can actually come to a shared understanding. And I do think that it is a tremendous asset to those businesses, the internet service providers, around customer satisfaction. And then that's actually going to end up being something that does become a big differentiator for them.
I sure appreciate the last half hour now talking about Metageek's new product, Wi-Spy Air, and the AirViewer software that comes along with it. Where would someone go to find out more information about this and or purchase it?
So you can find it right on our website. It's www.metageek.com. And it's right there on the front page. You can also follow us on Twitter at Metageek. That is our corporate Twitter, and that's where we push out all our updates about things that are going on, and all of the exciting software developments that I talked about that are coming down the road. We'll be really celebrating those on Twitter. So,
well, thanks for your time, Brian. I look forward to playing with one of these myself. I did get a chance to get some hands-on time with the pre-production unit that Ryan brought to the conference, and got me kind of excited. So I appreciate your time, and we'll link to your website and to the documents on AirViewer.
Thanks very much, Keith. It's been great talking to you. I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks.
Tools review.
Well, Jerry, hey, thanks for being here. How are you, sir?
Hey, Matthew, I'm doing fantastic.
So I thought I'd just jump on the line with you and talk about Ekahau Connect for those. I mean, obviously, or hopefully everyone's been hearing all the buzz, but just in case someone's missed it, bring us up to speed on what is new with Ekahau and this whole Connect thing.
Yeah, so Ekahau Connect is really an all-in-one product suite focused around better Wi-Fi, and what that entails is the software, the hardware, the training that you need to design and deploy better Wi-Fi, right? So we've had our flagship product like the Ekahau Site Survey Pro application, as well as now the Ekahau Sidekick hardware. We've had those products, the software for many years. The hardware has been around for a bit now, and now we've created this whole suite that builds upon that.
And then it just kind of officially got announced, and there's been a lot of excitement about it.
Yeah. So the excitement is really around the new products that build that out. So besides the flagship Ekahau Site Survey Pro tool, which is now called Ekahau Pro in the Ekahau Connect suite, we also have a new survey for iPad application. And then we also have our capture tool, packet capture tool that works with the Sidekick hardware. And then there's also a cloud component that kind of ties that whole thing together. And that's really the premise behind the Connect piece, right? Is working together is a big piece of this. So collaboration is a big component of the Ekahau Connect suite and enabling that collaboration component.
So if you, in the suite, we've got the different pieces, including the Sidekick, the survey, interacting with the iPad. Do you need all of these? Who's kind of your target as far as what pieces should people be getting? Should they be, if they can't get them all, should they be getting one piece more than the other?
Yeah, it's a good question, and that's really the Ekahau Connect is built for anybody that's designing, deploying, validating, troubleshooting Wi-Fi networks, this suite is kind of built for anybody that's either doing all of those functions or some of those functions, whether you're just going out and doing some Wi-Fi measurements. Maybe you're not the expert, but you have some experts that you can leverage to analyze those measurements, the data that you collect. Ekahau Connect is still for you because we have a very lightweight, easy to use application like the iPad app that can pair with the very advanced measurement device like the Sidekick. You don't have to be the expert that necessarily knows how to translate the results there, but you can now use the Connect and the cloud to be able to work together with your within your organization or even without or outside of your organization to process that information.
If you can capture it properly, which you're giving them the ability to do, they can, if they can't analyze it, they've got all the right information gathered with the suite.
That's right. Yeah.
You talked about training. What element of training is involved in this?
Yeah. So as part of this, this whole solution, we wanted to make it as easy as possible to get up and running with. And maybe if you've got, new members joining your team that haven't used these types of tools before, one of the, the feedback that we got from people is, they wanted a solution that they could get their team members up and running quickly. They didn't want to have to spend weeks, training to teach them how to use these tools and get up and running with these tools. So we leveraged Joel Crane, one of our team members at Ekahau, to build this content, online training content that as part of the Ekahau Connect solution, you get access to. You can take that online training content, teaches you how to use all these great tools that are part of the Ekahau Connect solution and get up and running really fast.
One of the things that you guys are doing is obviously for people who have their current licenses, you guys have kind of this limited time promotion going on. Talk about that.
Yeah, it's kind of a new thing for us because in the past, we've always had new products that were, in addition to maybe products that we offered. This is now the first time that we have this upgrade kind of option for our existing customer base, as well as obviously for new customers as well that might be, either new to the Wi-Fi tools segment altogether or maybe converting from a different tool. But for existing Ekahau users, there's some compelling, promotions going on to, get that converted over to take advantage of all these new tools that we've, created as part of this new Connect suite. So yeah, there's a promotion, I believe, that ends end of June, where for, I think it's $299 USD, you can upgrade your remaining time that's left on your active support and maintenance to be connectized, we'll call it, where you can activate that Ekahau Connect functionality that I talked about, the survey for iPad to capture the cloud. Now, that does mean you have to have already your Ekahau Pro license. You have to have a Sidekick. If you don't, you could purchase a Sidekick and do the Connect upgrade. But yeah, there's some nice upgrade path options for our existing users.
And then obviously for those who haven't yet jumped into purchasing Ekahau and they've been wanting to, this would be a perfect time to do it well from the ground up, where they get the whole Connect suite and do it right from the beginning.
Yeah. So for pretty minimal, $299, you get access to the iPad application. You get access to the capture tool to be able to unlock kind of the packet capture capability of your Sidekick, and then also access to that Ekahau Cloud component to be able to store your project files in the cloud. Makes it easy to share project files with other team members, either within your team or even outside of your organization.
Cool. I know we have a form where if people are interested, they can go to wlanpros.com/Ekahau Connect. And then if they want to kind of do a deep dive on this whole suite, they can go to ekahau.com//connect, correct?
Yep. Yeah, that'll take you right to the landing page. Otherwise, if you go to ekahau.com, under the products, you'll find under the products menu, you'll see the Ekahau Connect as well.
Very cool. Anything else we should be adding or what people should know?
Yeah, I mean, to me, the most, there's a lot of exciting things within the Ekahau Connect solution, but, the geeky side of me, my favorite thing about it is the capture tool. To some people, that's kind of, a simple thing, but if you've done any kind of packet captures before, some of the nuances of that, depending on, what operating system you're running, the hardware you have, things like that. It can be a real difficult thing to be able to capture packets. It sounds like, easier said than done, right? But now having an application that we can use with the existing hardware that a lot of our users already have and just unlock that feature and that capability, I think is really awesome. And, really gets us into some nitty gritty details for when it comes to troubleshooting, validation, just being able to dig into the details about the conversations that are happening in the air between our access points and our clients and why they're behaving a certain way. Really allows us to dig in deeper than we ever have before. So I'm really excited about that piece of that and what that's going to kind of bring to the world of Wi-Fi troubleshooting specifically.
Very cool. Well, Jerry, thank you. And then if people wanted to reach out to you and had more questions for the expert, how would they do that?
I don't know about being the expert, but happy to answer any questions I can. Twitter is probably the best way to reach out to me, at JOLLA on Twitter. Otherwise, feel free to shoot me an email as well, jerry@ekahau.com. That's JERRY@ekahau.com.
All right. Jerry, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Matthew.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Wireless LAN Professionals Podcast, the podcast for wireless LAN professionals by wireless LAN professionals. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @Wireless LAN Pros for all the latest news and updates, and also connect directly with Keith on Twitter @KeithR.Parsons. Head over to www.wlanpros.com for this episode's show notes, as well as the latest in all things Wi-Fi.